All right. Hello again. So we have two different topics we're working through on Thursday evenings. Tonight we're going to be on this one. The Gateless Gate, the Mumonkan, which is a collection, 9th century I think it was, maybe 10th century, but it's late Tang Dynasty koan collection. There's 48 of these. And we're doing one a week every couple of weeks, so this is going to be like a couple of years worth we'll be going through this. The one we're going to look at tonight is number 5, which is Kyogen's Man Up a Tree. So what I will do is I will read this through. There's a koan, so that the what happens here, there's the koan, which is this little pithy exchange between a couple of ancient Chinese masters, which is a direct expression of awakened mind. Then there's a commentary by Mumon, who is the guy who assembled this collection of 48 of those. And then there's a little poem, typically a 4-line poem at the end, and these are his commentary on the koan, which are intended to help us get the koan. And I don't say get rather than understand, it's more like become the koan, because there are a number of different ways of approaching koans, but in the tradition in which this is used most heavily, which is Rinzai Zen, the practice of actually becoming the koan. You drop everything else away. The koan becomes your single point of focus. To the extent that that's what you become, there is nothing left. And when that happens, the key within the koan just becomes reality. And it's like hacking metaphors or similes. It's like in Dune, where you get the guild, and they bend space. So it's like when this happens, space folds, and you just step through. Or it's like the TARDIS, where life is in this capsule, and the door goes out, and you can just step through the door, and you're in boundless space, which is just peace. It's just, the universe opens up, because that's what you become. Alright, so I'll talk through it, hopefully it'll make more sense as we get through this. So here's the koan. Master Kyogen said, "It is like a man up a tree who hangs from a branch by his mouth. His hands cannot grasp a bough, his feet cannot touch the tree. Another man comes under the tree and asks him the meaning of Bodhidharma coming from the west. If he does not answer, he does not meet the questioner's need. If he answers, he dies. At such a time, how should he answer?" So the commentary. "Even though your eloquence flows like a river, it is all to no avail. Even if you can expound the great Tripitaka, it is also of no use. If you can really answer it, you will revive the dead and kill the living. If, however, you are unable to answer, wait for Maitreya to come and ask him." Mumon's poem. So this is the 4-line poem at the end. Kyogen is just gibbering. How vicious his poison is. Stopping up the monks' mouths, he makes the devil's eyes glare. So there's a code in here, among other things, and we'll unpack the code as we get through, because some of these, it's like references, self-referential to the culture within which this all arises. So I'll unpack some of that as we go through it. But the heart of this is really pretty simple as the punchline of the koan. So the punchline is, he is in a place, Kyogen is in a place, he's putting the man up the tree in a place where he has to answer an unanswerable question. What is the meaning of life? 42, right? So what's the question? It's an unanswerable question. But you've got to answer it. That's what we're in this room on Zoom. That's what we're here to do, is answer this question ourselves. What is the meaning of our lives? What are we here to do with our lives? How do we answer that unanswerable question? How do we express the inexpressible? So all of these koans, they set up a fundamental and unanswerable contradiction. And you see what that contradiction is, and it's you've got to articulate that which cannot be articulated. What is that? All right, a good place to start a lot of these stories. These are stories about real people. Kyogen was a real person in 9th century China. And the koan that is assembled here is from his experience, his story. There isn't a man up a tree holding onto the tree with his teeth, right? But this is something that comes out of his experience. This is something he's come up with to express what that how he approached that reality, how he encountered that in his life. So understanding his story is really helpful. So Kyogen, he was a young monk. He worked with Hyakujo. Pai Chang is his Chinese name. And we met Hyakujo earlier in this. It was Hyakujo's fox, which is an old man incarnated as a fox, and number 2 in this book if you're interested. So he worked with him for a while, and then he moved on, and that was what often happened. The teacher would say, okay, I'm done with you, go talk to Fred or Sally or Juanita, who's over the other side of that really big range of mountains, and they go across with their straw sandals. Really, they walked in straw sandals. So they go across this huge range of mountains, like make the Appalachians look like children's play, 10,000, 15,000 foot mountains in the middle of China. So they walk over these mountains to the monastery on the other side, riddled with snakes and tigers. I don't know how many of them died on the way. And they go see this other abbot, typically be left waiting outside the gate for days, waiting to be let in, to show that they were sincere. They would sleep outside the gate, and they would get let in and get taught by this other teacher. So this was very serious practice with these guys. Anyway, so he went and he worked with this guy called Isan. And after he'd been working with him for a while, Isan said to him, okay, so put aside all that stuff you've learned, all your study, all your books, and just tell me this. Who were you before you were born? Kyogen, what? So it makes sense, but he has no idea how to answer this. So he tries to answer it, and the teacher just tells him to go away. That's not it. And he knows it's not it, but he keeps on trying and not getting it. And eventually, after probably years of doing this, he says, Master, please, I'm dying here. You're killing me. This is the most important thing in my life, and I am just stuck. And you have to understand when looking at these koans, it really is the single most important thing in this person's life. They're committed to this practice, they're committed to this awakening, and this becomes the fulcrum. And when you're stuck on this, it really becomes a complete matter of life or death. So he's completely stuck. And in absolute desperation, he goes to Isan and says, Master, please, I'm stuck. Help. And the master says, well, I could tell you the answer, but I could tell you what it is, but those would be my words, and that would have nothing to do with your answer. My words, nothing to do with your answer. So Kyogen just throws up his hands in horror. And eventually says, I can't do this anymore. He just quits. He decides he's going to go and be toilet cleaner. It's something like that. It's a really dirty, menial task. So he literally burns all of his books, all of his studies, all of his texts, and he goes to work as this person in the graveyard. I think actually it's a graveyard. He's working as a cleaner in the graveyard. And one day he's sweeping away the trash, he's sweeping it into the undergrowth, and there's this clunk as a pebble hits a bamboo stalk, and suddenly with that the bottom drops out. He wakes up. And he drops everything, he lights incense, and he prostrates himself to Isan, and he says, he gets it. He says, if you told me, I just wouldn't have got it. I couldn't have got it. Thank you for your teachings. Thank you for your teachings. So that's the genesis of this story. something in there that just crossed my mind that kind of points to the truth here. There's another story of somebody who burned all their books. This was his name was Tokusan. He features in a number of these koan collections as well. Broad contemporary of all of these guys. They were all in like a 400-year period. So he was very full of himself. He was a lecturer on the Diamond Sutra, which is one of the Chinese Buddhist texts. So he'd walk around with his backpack with all of these scrolls and teachings of the sutra and commentaries on the sutra and so forth. And he's walking to a temple somewhere, and he comes to a stall at the side of the road. And there's a little old lady behind the stall serving food, and he asks her for food. And there's a little pun here in Chinese, which is breakfast. The word for breakfast, the vernacular for breakfast, is to freshen the mind. Makes sense, you're waking up and freshen up the mind. So he stops at the stall and he asks this woman to freshen up his mind. And she says, "Which mind would you like me to freshen up?" Because there's a line in the Diamond Sutra which says, "The past mind is ungraspable, the present mind is ungraspable, the future mind is ungraspable." So she says, "Which mind would you like me to freshen? Can't be the past, can't be the present, can't be the future, because I can't grasp it." That just completely floors Tokusan. So he burns all his script, all his texts. Because this is recognizing the inability of language, of logic, of thought to get at truth. That's what both of these stories, Kyogen's life story and that story about Tokusan burning his scroll, that's what they're both pointing at. So let's go back to the koan. Master Kyogen said, "It is like a man who hangs from a branch by his mouth. His hands can't grasp a bough, and his feet can't get any foothold on any branches." So, and then he's asked this question: what is the meaning of Bodhidharma coming from the West? Bodhidharma, we've met Bodhidharma in this before. Bodhidharma is the person who took Buddhism from India to China. He's famously, he founded, Chinese, Tai Chi. Yes. The Shaolin Temple. He founded Shaolin Temple, and the stories are that Chinese tea comes from Bodhidharma, because he was so tired he sat for 6 years without sleeping, and his eyes would drop off. He would drop off to sleep, so he tore out his eyelids and threw them on the ground, and they grew into tea bushes. So a very well-known character in all of these stories. What is the meaning of Bodhidharma coming from the West? Most obviously he came from the West to bring the Buddhist teaching, but that's a logical answer. We can't, it's not, that's missing. Because it's about people waking up. There's something much deeper than bringing Buddhism. So, what is the meaning of Bodhidharma coming from the West, was the question. So the man in the tree, he is being asked to answer logically, and if he relies on logic, he has two choices, and neither of them works. So logic doesn't get you there. It's simply forcing you to the place. If you move into this koan and you live this koan and you become this, you are accepting moving into a place where logic, rationality and language simply can't get you there. The first koan in this collection talks about casting away the discriminating mind. That's what this is about. It's cast away the discriminating mind. That cannot get us there. And it's particularly troublesome and difficult in this society because we are trained so much to rely on thought. We've cut off instinct and intuition as primary, and we rely primarily on thought. There's a totally different way of relating to the world where instinct and intuition is primary and thought helps it. And we experience this all the time. If you go for a walk, just go for a walk in the woods and let yourself walk for 20 minutes and then start paying attention to what's going on. And what's going on is your body is walking. Your mind's not doing it. Your body knows what it's doing. Your body's doing the walking. It's noticing what's going on around you. It's noticing where the path is. It's noticing choices that need to be made. And every now and again, there'll be like a little creek, and there'll be some rocks that cross it up there, and some rocks there, and a couple of logs down there, and it brings the mind to play to help figure out which is the best path, and the mind steps in and makes a decision for the body, and then the body takes over again and carries on. So we're really used to moving into that mode of operation, but we rely so heavily on the other mode where mind is placed first, that this idea of putting aside discriminating mind is really difficult for us to grasp. But that's what this is asking us to do. Put aside discriminating mind. So if he does not answer, he does not meet the questioner's need. If he does answer, he will lose his life. There are lots of a lot of these Chinese phrases are very nuanced, and they don't translate literally. There are missing words in Chinese that are kind of filled in because the language flows and works differently. But there's a valence in that line of changing the way that we look at life and death. We think of death as just being this end and life as being the beginning. But death, in a sense, in an important sense, death is death of an ego, which is actually an awakening into true self. So, and death and life, in Theravadan Buddhism, in particular, there's a lot of time we talk about the deathless. What is the deathless? Well, the deathless is what we really are. This idea that there's an I that dies is a story we make up. Where is this I? There's another story, Bodhidharma. One of his first disciples came to Bodhidharma and said, Master, I cannot still my mind. Bodhidharma said to him, okay, show me your mind, bring me your mind and present it to me, and I will still it. Go away and find it, bring it back. So this guy, his name is Huike, he went away and he came back sometime later. He said, Master, I can't find my mind. Find your mind. You can't. Find your mind and show it to him. Master, I can't find my mind. And Bodhidharma said, there we go, I've stilled it for you. So who is this I that's going to die? You can't find it. Even though your eloquence flows like a river, it's all to no avail. In Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, no, it's not Julius Caesar, it's Antony and Cleopatra. There's a scene in there where Anthony is trying to persuade Cleopatra about something. Actually, it's not Anthony. It's Octavius. Octavius is trying to persuade Cleopatra about something and dissing Anthony. And Cleopatra turns to her attendant and she says, words, words, words. He's wording me, girls. I think that's just beautiful because he's wording me. We can't do it with words. We can't do it with words. It doesn't matter how eloquent we are. Intellect is a trap. It's really useful, and it's a trap. We've got to recognize its place and its utility, and it's not for answering this question, it's for asking this question, but it cannot answer this question. Even if you can expand the great Tripitaka, it's of no use. The Pali Canon, the old Indian canon of Buddhism, there's the Tripitaka, which is the three baskets. There's the Sutta Pitaka, which is the basket of the teachings. There's the basket of the monastic order, the rules and codes. And then there's the Abhidharma, which is the philosophical teachings, the lists and the structures. So the Tripitaka is that great body of teachings. If you can expand all of it, if you know it all back to back, it's of no use. Question for you, Kyogen, said his son. Put aside all of that learning, everything you've studied. Who were you before you were born? Those teachings will not answer that. There's another story. I don't know where this comes from. I'm confident it's a Zen experience, where the teacher asks somebody a question, and they're sitting pretty close, like as close as I am to this laptop. Teacher asks the question, and it's one of these, life and death kind of questions. And the student sits there and ponders it a while, and then starts to open the mouth to answer. And as the student opens their mouth, the teacher goes like that to cover the mouth. In that space, if you're able to spend a moment in that space, as thought starts to form but hasn't yet formed, there's something magical there. It's like things in the peripheral vision. They're not formed. There's a cloud, there's a potential, there's a becoming, but there's not a being. There's something very mysterious. If you let something form, it's too late. The answer's gone. The answer's in that mystery. It's in that experience of mystery. Even if you can expand the great Tripitaka, it's of no use. If you can really answer it, you will revive the dead and kill the living. If, however, you are unable to answer, wait for Maitreya to come and ask him. Maitreya is the future Buddha. May comes from Maitri, which is loving kindness. So Maitreya is the Buddha of love and compassion. He's the future Buddha, who's due to come in like 5 million years or something ridiculous. So this sentence here, wait for Maitreya to come and ask him, sounds like a blow-off, but it's not. It's a statement of profound compassion. This is so important. If you can't figure it out, it is worth waiting 5 million years trying to figure it out. And if you still can't figure it out, there will be a Buddha who can help you. Poem. Kyogen is just gibbering. Gibbering, as I understand it, is translated from the Chinese word that is means basically it's without meter, without rhyme, without rhythm. So it's a reference to how one would write a poem, a bad poem, and that's what it's trying to point out here. Kyogen is he's putting together nonsense that doesn't fit and doesn't work. How vicious his poison is. Sounds unkind, but it's actually a really flattering statement. The poison is this koan. The poison is this formulation that is intended to completely break down somebody's sense of reality. If you are able to bring this koan in and really live this koan, you will answer that question. You will be able to respond. You won't answer the question. You will be able to respond to the person under the tree who says, what is the meaning of Bodhidharma coming from the West? You will not do it with words. You will not do it by opening your mouth. But you will be able to respond to that question. If you really move into this and you really become this, space will fold and you will just step through. Utterly mysterious, that's just how it works. So it's really vicious, it's really sharp, it's really pointed, but it works. Stopping up the month's mouths, that's like this exercise. You can't, it's wrong, that's not how you do it. He makes their devil's eyes glare. That's to me that's we think of the devil as a really evil thing and as a bad thing, but in this sense I take that as meaning there's just this bright, it's the same as how vicious the poison is. It sounds really strong and negative, but it's a really strong statement of how bright and unexpected and powerful this awakening is, this being at a place where this is answered, and it's answered out of experience, it's answered out of action, not out of intellect and words. Alright, I've probably done enough damage to that, so let me stop recording.